I crouched in the shadows, scanning the bustling streets of the fantasy kingdom's capital, Azura's reach. The city was a tapestry of colors, with market stalls selling exotic spices, rare gemstones, and enchanted trinkets. My eyes roamed over the crowds, searching for any sign of the authorities, the city watch, or the Imperial Guard. They were always on the lookout for smugglers like me, and I had to be careful not to draw attention to myself. My ship, the Marauder's Revenge, was hidden in a nearby alley, its hull disguised with a patchwork of stolen and salvaged parts. I'd cobbled it together from scraps I'd found in the Underdark, and it was a testament to my ingenuity and resourcefulness. The ship was a marvel of engineering, with a hull made from a rare metal alloy that was almost indestructible. It was the perfect vessel for a smuggler like me, and I'd grown attached to it over the years. I checked my comms device, a small, intricately carved box that allowed me to communicate with my clients and other smugglers. There were several messages from various contacts, but none of them were from anyone I was expecting. I deleted the messages, my mind already focused on the task at hand. I'd been waiting for what felt like hours for a contact to arrive, and I was starting to get impatient. Smuggling was a high-risk profession, and I had to be constantly on the lookout for any sign of trouble. I'd made a name for myself as one of the best in the business, but that didn't mean I was invincible. A hooded figure emerged from the crowd, their eyes scanning the area before locking onto me. I nodded and they approached, their gait confident. I could tell they were a skilled operative, one who knew how to move undetected through the city. "Kaelin Vex, I've heard a lot about your talents," the figure said, their voice low and husky. They were a woman, with a subtle accent that suggested she was from the southern provinces. I smiled, a habit I'd developed to put people at ease. "And I've heard a lot about you, my friend," I replied, my eyes never leaving hers. "You're a long way from home, aren't you?" The woman nodded, her hood falling away to reveal a face that was both familiar and yet utterly alien. "I'm from Eldrador," she said, her eyes sparkling with a hint of mischief. "I have a package for you, Kaelin, a rare artifact from the ancient city, one that's said to grant immense power to its owner." I raised an eyebrow, intrigued despite myself. Eldrador was a city of legend, a place of ancient magic and forgotten knowledge. I'd heard stories of its wonders, but I'd never seen it for myself. "What makes you think I'm interested?" I asked, my mind racing with the possibilities. The woman smiled, a hint of a smile playing on her lips. "I've heard you're a man of discerning taste, Kaelin. You have a reputation for being one of the best smugglers in the business, and I'm willing to pay top dollar for your services." I nodded, my mind already making calculations. The artifact was worth a small fortune, and I could see the potential for profit. But there was more to it than just the money. There was the thrill of the adventure, the chance to explore the ancient city and uncover its secrets. "What do you say, Kaelin?" the woman asked, her eyes sparkling with anticipation. "Will you take on the job?" I hesitated for a moment, weighing the risks and benefits, but in the end, it was a decision that was almost too easy to make. I nodded, a smile spreading across my face. "All right, I'm in," I said, my mind already racing with the possibilities. "But I need to know more about the artifact. What is it exactly, and what kind of security can I expect?" The woman smiled, a hint of satisfaction playing on her lips. "The artifact is a relic from the ancient city of Eldrador," she said. "It's a small, intricately carved box made from a rare metal alloy. And as for security, let's just say that you'll need to be careful. The city is full of traps and puzzles, designed to keep intruders out, but I'm willing to provide you with a map and a set of instructions to help you navigate the city." I nodded, my mind already racing with the possibilities. I could see the potential for profit, but I could also see the risks. The city was a labyrinth of ancient magic and forgotten knowledge, and I knew that I'd have to be careful to avoid getting caught. But I was a smuggler after all. I was used to taking risks, and I knew that this was just another job, another adventure in the never-ending world of smuggling. "All right, I'll take it," I said, my mind already made up. "But I need to know more about the pay. How much are we talking?" The woman smiled, a hint of a smile playing on her lips. "We're talking a small fortune, Kaelin," she said. "Enough to set you up for life if you're smart enough to take it." I raised an eyebrow, intrigued despite myself. A small fortune was a lot of money, and I knew that I'd have to be careful not to get caught. But I was a smuggler after all. I was used to taking risks, and I knew that this was just another job, another adventure in the never-ending world of smuggling. "All right, I'll take it," I said, my mind already made up. "But I need to know more about the artifact and the city. I need to know what I'm getting myself into." The woman nodded, a hint of a smile playing on her lips. "I'll provide you with a map and a set of instructions," she said. "But I need to warn you, Kaelin. The city is full of traps and puzzles, designed to keep intruders out. You'll need to be careful to avoid getting caught." I nodded, my mind already racing with the possibilities. I knew that I'd have to be careful, but I also knew that I was a skilled smuggler. I'd transported contraband from the depths of the Underdark to the highest echelons of the Imperial Palace. I knew how to navigate the city, and I knew how to avoid getting caught. "All right, I'm in," I said, my mind already made up. "But I need to know more about the artifact and the city. I need to know what I'm getting myself into." The woman smiled, a hint of satisfaction playing on her lips. "I'll provide you with a map and a set of instructions," she said. "But I need to warn you, Kaelin. The city is full of traps and puzzles, designed to keep intruders out. You'll need to be careful." I navigated the winding tunnels of the Undercity, my ship's cargo manifest weighing heavy in my pack. The artifact, a small crystal orb, pulsed with an otherworldly energy, drawing curious glances from the scrawny denizens of the Undercity. I'd been warned about the city's traps and puzzles, but I'd dealt with worse. I'd smuggled contraband through the Underdark's treacherous tunnels and outrun Imperial patrols in the galaxy's most lawless sectors. My contact, a hooded figure, had provided me with a map and a set of cryptic instructions. I'd memorized them, but I still felt a nagging sense of unease. The Undercity was a labyrinth, and I'd been navigating its twisting corridors for hours. Sweat dripped down my face, and I wiped it away with the back of my hand, my eyes scanning the dimly lit tunnels. A sign creaked in the gentle breeze, reading Erebus's Eye in faded letters. I recognized the name, a collector of ancient relics and forbidden knowledge. I'd heard whispers about his lair, a treasure trove of artifacts and dusty tomes. I'd been warned that he was a recluse, a hermit who'd lost touch with the world above. I took a deep breath and pushed open the door, a bell above it ringing out as I entered. The air inside was thick with the scent of old books and decay. I blinked, my eyes adjusting to the dim light. The room was a maze of shelves, stacked high with tomes bound in leather and adorned with strange symbols. A figure emerged from the shadows, its hood thrown back, revealing a gaunt face with sunken eyes. "Kaelin Vex, I've been expecting you," he said, his voice dripping with an otherworldly cadence. "You've brought the artifact." I nodded, producing the crystal orb from my pack. The collector's eyes lit up, and he reached out, his fingers closing around the orb like a vice. "Ah, a fragment of Erebus," he whispered, his eyes gazing into the distance. "The secrets of Eldrador's downfall, hidden within its crystal core." I watched, fascinated, as the collector's eyes glazed over, his mind consumed by the artifact's power. "Erebus," he whispered, his voice barely audible. "The ancient I, a creature of pure logic and reason. It held the key to Eldrador's power, a power that was lost when it fell." I felt a shiver run down my spine as the collector's words hung in the air. I'd heard rumors about Erebus, a being of immense power and knowledge. I'd always thought it was just a myth, a legend created to frighten children into behaving. But now I wasn't so sure. The collector's eyes snapped back into focus, and he looked at me with a calculating gaze. "You see, Kaelin, this artifact is more than just a relic. It's a key to unlocking the secrets of Eldrador's downfall. And with it, I can rebuild the Empire, create a new order, with me as the master." I felt a chill run down my spine as I realized the true value of the artifact. I'd been paid a handsome sum to deliver it, but I knew that I'd just become embroiled in something much bigger than myself. I was no longer just a smuggler. I was a pawn in a much larger game. The collector's eyes locked onto mine, and I knew that I had to get out of there and fast. I think I've delivered the artifact, I said, trying to sound nonchalant. I'll just leave now. The collector's face fell, and he looked at me with a mixture of disappointment and anger. You're not going anywhere, Kaelin, he said, his voice dripping with menace. You're going to help me unlock the secrets of Erebus, and with it, we'll change the course of history. I knew then that I was in grave danger. I had to get out of there, and fast, before the collector's obsession consumed me. I turned to leave, but the door was blocked by a pair of burly guards, their faces expressionless. I was trapped, and I knew that I had to think fast if I wanted to survive. I navigated the winding streets of Azura's reach, my eyes scanning the towering spires and grand architecture of the fantasy kingdom's capital. My ship, the Marauder's Revenge, was hidden in a nearby alley, its hull disguised with a patchwork of stolen and salvaged parts. I'd received the coordinates for the ancient city of Eldrador from the hooded figure, and I was determined to reach it before nightfall. The air grew thick with an otherworldly energy as I approached the city's outskirts. The trees seemed to twist and writhe, their branches like grasping fingers. I could feel the weight of history bearing down on me, the accumulated power of a civilization long lost to the sands of time. I dismounted my horse and approached the entrance to the city. The gates were old and worn, covered in a thick layer of dust and vines. I pushed them open, my hand on the hilt of my blaster. The silence was oppressive, punctuated only by the creaking of ancient stone and the distant howl of a pack of wolves. As I stepped into the city, I was struck by the sheer scale of the ruins. Towering spires and grand architecture stretched out before me, a testament to the ingenuity and power of a civilization long past. I wandered the streets, my footsteps echoing off the stone walls. I stumbled upon a holographic display, projecting images of the ancient civilization that once thrived here. The images were grainy and distorted, but I could see the outlines of people, buildings, and machines. I approached the display, my eyes scanning the images. A figure emerged from the crowd, a young woman with a look of determination etched on her face. She was dressed in a simple tunic, her hair tied back in a practical knot. "Welcome, Kaelin Vex," she said, her voice firm. "I see you've found the display. It's a remnant of the Eldradorian civilization, a people who possess technology far beyond our own." I nodded, my mind racing with the implications. "What kind of technology?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. The woman smiled, a hint of excitement playing on her lips. "The Eldradorians had access to a form of energy that defied explanation. They called it the Echo, a power that could be harnessed and wielded by even the most skilled of warriors." I felt a shiver run down my spine as I gazed at the display. I knew that the artifact I was smuggling was connected to this technology, and I realized the true extent of the collector's intentions. He wasn't just looking to possess a relic of the past. He was seeking to unlock the secrets of the Echo, to harness its power for himself. The woman's eyes locked onto mine, her gaze piercing. "You understand, Kaelin. You're not just smuggling a relic, you're smuggling a key to unlocking the secrets of the universe." I nodded, my mind racing with the implications. I knew that I had to get out of there, and fast, before the collector's obsession consumed me. I turned to leave, but the woman's voice stopped me. "Wait, Kaelin," she said, her voice firm. "You need to know more about the artifact. It's not just a relic, it's a doorway to a world beyond our own." I turned back to her, my eyes narrowing. "What do you mean?" The woman smiled, a hint of mischief playing on her lips. "The artifact is a gateway to the Underworld, a realm of darkness and shadow. It's a place where the laws of physics are twisted and distorted, where the very fabric of reality is torn apart." I felt a shiver run down my spine as I gazed at the display. I knew that I was in grave danger, that I was playing with forces beyond my control. But I also knew that I had to see this through, to uncover the secrets of the artifact and the collector's intentions. I nodded, my mind made up. "I'll take the risk," I said, my voice firm. "I'll see this through no matter what." The woman's eyes locked onto mine, her gaze piercing. "Then let's get moving, Kaelin. We have a long journey ahead of us, and not a lot of time to waste." As we navigated the winding streets of the Imperial Palace, the air thick with the whispers of intrigue and deception, I couldn't help but feel a sense of unease. The woman, whose name was Lyra, had been cryptic about the artifact and the true nature of our mission. I had a feeling that we were playing with fire, and that I was in over my head. We finally arrived at a nondescript door, adorned with intricate carvings that seemed to shimmer in the dim light. Lyra produced a small crystal key and inserted it into a hidden keyhole. The door creaked open, revealing a dimly lit chamber filled with rows of humming servers and blinking consoles. In the center of the room, a holographic display flickered to life, casting an ethereal glow over the space. "Welcome to the heart of the Imperial Palace's AI network," Lyra said, her eyes gleaming with a mixture of excitement and trepidation. "Here, we'll be able to analyze the fragment of Erebus and unlock its secrets." I nodded, my mind racing with the implications. "And what secrets might those be?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Lyra's smile was enigmatic. "That, Kaelin, is for me to know and for you to discover." As we began to work the AI network whirring to life around us, I couldn't help but feel a sense of awe at the sheer complexity of the Imperial Palace's technology. The servers hummed and pulsed, their processors working in tandem to analyze the fragment of Erebus. After what felt like an eternity, the holographic display flickered and died, plunging the room into darkness. Lyra cursed under her breath as she frantically worked to reboot the system. Finally, the display flickered back to life, casting an eerie glow over the room. I approached the console, my eyes scanning the data streaming across the screen. And then I saw it, a hidden message, encoded deep within the fragment of Erebus. "What is this?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Lyra's eyes locked onto mine, her gaze piercing. "It's a message from the ancient city of Eldrador," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "A message that could change the course of history." As I gazed at the display, my mind reeling with the implications, Lyra began to explain the significance of the message. It spoke of a catastrophic event, one that had led to the downfall of Eldrador. The city, once a beacon of magic and wonder, had been consumed by darkness and despair. "But that's not all," Lyra continued, her voice filled with a sense of trepidation. "The message hints at a connection between the ancient city and the fantasy kingdom's current state. It suggests that the downfall of Eldrador was not an isolated event, but rather a symptom of a greater problem." I felt a chill run down my spine as I pieced together the clues. The fantasy kingdom, with its crumbling infrastructure and decaying magic, was not a coincidence. It was a result of a larger issue, one that had been hidden in plain sight for centuries. Lyra's eyes locked onto mine, her gaze piercing. "Kaelin, we have a problem that goes far beyond the fragment of Erebus. We have to get to the bottom of this to uncover the truth behind the downfall of Eldrador." I nodded, my mind made up. "Then let's get moving, Lyra. We have a long journey ahead of us and not a lot of time to waste." As we left the AI network, the darkness of the Imperial Palace closing in around us, I couldn't help but feel a sense of trepidation. We were playing with fire, and I wasn't sure if we'd emerge unscathed. But one thing was certain, we had to uncover the truth behind the fragment of Erebus, no matter the cost. I stood in the dimly lit chamber, surrounded by the soft glow of luminescent orbs that cast an ethereal light on the collector's prized possessions. The air was thick with the scent of aged leather and parchment, and the faint hint of ozone that seemed to emanate from the artifacts themselves. I had been warned about the collector's obsession with the relics of Eldrador, but I had not expected the sheer scale of their collection. As I gazed upon the artifacts, my mind racing with the implications of what I was seeing, the collector's voice cut through the silence. "Ah, Kaelin, I see you're impressed. You have a keen eye for the finer things in life, I'll give you that." I turned to face the collector, my eyes narrowing as I tried to read their intentions. "You're not just collecting these artifacts for their historical significance, are you?" I asked, my voice cautious. The collector's smile grew wider, their eyes glinting with a knowing light. "Oh no, Kaelin. I'm not just a collector. I'm a visionary, and I have a plan to unlock the secrets of Eldrador, to harness the power of the AI that once ruled the realm." I felt a shiver run down my spine as I realized the true extent of the collector's ambition. "You're not just talking about unlocking the secrets of Eldrador," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "You're talking about using the AI's power to manipulate the fantasy kingdom's politics, to gain control over the realm." The collector's smile grew even wider, their eyes gleaming with excitement. "Exactly, Kaelin, and with the power of the AI at my fingertips, nothing will be able to stop me. I'll be the one pulling the strings, shaping the course of history to suit my own desires." I felt a cold dread creeping up my spine as I realized the true nature of the collector's intentions. They were not interested in uncovering the truth behind the downfall of Eldrador, but in exploiting its power for their own gain. And I had been foolish enough to think that I could serve them without being consumed by their ambition. "You're not going to use the AI's power to help the fantasy kingdom," I said, my voice firm. "You're going to use it to control it, to bend it to your will, and that's not what I signed up for." The collector's smile faltered for a moment, and I saw a flicker of anger in their eyes. "You're not in a position to refuse my offer, Kaelin," they said, their voice dripping with menace. "You're in debt to me, and you'll do as I say. Besides, you'll see the wisdom in my plan once you understand the full extent of the AI's power." I knew then that I had to make a choice. I could continue serving the collector, hoping to find a way to stop them from exploiting the AI's power, or I could forge my own path, one that would take me into the unknown. But one thing was certain: I couldn't stay in this chamber, surrounded by the collector's treacherous plans. "I'm out of here," I said, turning to leave. But the collector's voice stopped me in my tracks. "Not so fast, Kaelin," they said, their voice cold and detached. "You're not going anywhere until you understand the full extent of the AI's power, and I'm not going to let you leave until you're ready to join me on this journey." I turned to face the collector, my eyes locked onto theirs. "I'm not going to join you," I said, my voice firm, "and I'm not going to let you use the AI's power to control the fantasy kingdom. I'm going to stop you no matter what it takes." The collector's smile grew wider, their eyes gleaming with excitement. "We'll see about that, Kaelin," they said, their voice dripping with menace. "We'll see about that." As we ventured deeper into the heart of the ancient city, Lyra led the way, her slender form navigating the crumbling streets with ease. I followed closely behind, my eyes scanning the surroundings for any signs of danger. The air was thick with an otherworldly energy, and I could feel the weight of history bearing down upon me. We walked for what felt like hours, the silence between us broken only by the soft crunch of gravel beneath our feet. Lyra finally stopped at the entrance of a grand, ancient temple, its facade adorned with intricate carvings that seemed to dance in the flickering light of our lanterns. "This is it," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "The heart of the city's power source." I nodded, my curiosity piqued. "The echo," I said, recalling the fragment's cryptic message. "What is it?" Lyra's eyes sparkled with a hint of excitement. "The echo is a mysterious energy that permeates the city," she explained. "It's said to be connected to the very fabric of reality itself. Some believe it's a remnant of the ancient civilization that once called this city home." I raised an eyebrow, intrigued. "And you think it's connected to the AI fragment?" Lyra nodded. "I'm certain of it. The fragment's message spoke of the echo, and how it held the key to unlocking the secrets of Eldrador. I believe we can harness this energy to change the course of history." I felt a shiver run down my spine as I realized the implications. "If we can tap into the echo," I said, my voice barely above a whisper, "we might be able to unlock the secrets of Eldrador and potentially change the course of the fantasy kingdom's history." Lyra's eyes locked onto mine, her gaze piercing. "Exactly," she said, a hint of determination in her voice, "and I'm willing to do whatever it takes to see this through." As we entered the temple, The air grew thick with an electric charge. I could feel the energy of the echo pulsing through the air, and I knew that we were getting close to the heart of the city's power source. We navigated the temple's labyrinthine corridors, avoiding treacherous pitfalls and ancient traps. Lyra led the way, her knowledge of the city's layout and history guiding us through the darkness. Finally, we reached a large, circular chamber deep within the temple's heart. The room was filled with a dazzling array of ancient technology, strange devices that hummed with energy and pulsed with an otherworldly power. Lyra approached a large, crystal orb that sat atop a pedestal at the center of the room. The orb seemed to be the focal point of the echo's energy, and I could feel its power coursing through the air. "This is it," Lyra said, her voice filled with awe. "This is the source of the echo." I approached the pedestal, my eyes locked onto the crystal orb. As I reached out to touch it, I felt a surge of energy course through my body, and I knew that we were on the cusp of something momentous. "What does it mean?" I asked Lyra, my voice barely above a whisper. Lyra's eyes sparkled with excitement. "It means we can harness the power of the echo to unlock the secrets of Eldrador," she said, her voice filled with determination. "And with it, we might just change the course of the fantasy kingdom's history." I felt a shiver run down my spine as I realized the implications. We were on the verge of something incredible, something that could potentially change the course of history, and I knew that I was ready to see this through, no matter the cost. As we navigated the winding streets of the Imperial Palace, I couldn't shake off the feeling that we were being watched. Lyra seemed to sense my unease, her eyes darting back and forth as we moved through the crowded corridors. "We need to be careful, Kaelin," she whispered, her voice barely audible over the hum of the palace's energy shields. "The Collector's minions are everywhere, and they won't hesitate to use force to capture you." I nodded, my hand instinctively reaching for the blaster holstered at my hip. I'd been in tighter spots before, but this was different. This was personal. We turned a corner, and I spotted a group of Imperial Guardsmen lounging in the shadows. Lyra's eyes narrowed as she took in the scene. "Those aren't just any guardsmen, Kaelin," she said, her voice low and urgent. "Those are the Collector's men. They're here to capture you and retrieve the fragment." I cursed under my breath as I realized the truth. The Collector had sent their minions to capture me, to use my skills and knowledge to unlock the secrets of the artifact. And now I was running out of time. "We need to get out of here now," I said, grabbing Lyra's arm and pulling her into a nearby alleyway. The guardsmen gave chase, their blasters firing wildly as they tried to pin us down. I ducked and weaved, using the narrow alleys and side streets to evade their shots. Lyra kept pace with me, her eyes locked onto mine as we moved through the winding corridors. "We can't keep running, Kaelin," she said, her voice panting with exertion. "We need to find a way to shake them off our tail." I nodded, my mind racing with options. We needed to lose the guardsmen, and fast. I spotted a maintenance access panel on the wall, and I yanked it open, revealing a narrow crawl space. "Get in, Lyra," I said, gesturing for her to follow me. She hesitated for a moment before scrambling into the crawl space. I followed close behind, the sound of blaster fire echoing through the corridors as the guardsmen gave chase. We crawled through the narrow tunnels, our bodies pressed against the cold metal walls as we tried to lose the guardsmen. The air was thick with the smell of ozone and burning wiring, and I could feel the heat emanating from the energy shields as we moved through the palace's infrastructure. Finally, we reached a ventilation shaft, and I yanked it open, revealing a narrow catwalk that stretched out into the darkness. Lyra hesitated for a moment before nodding and following me out onto the catwalk. We moved across the narrow walkway, our footsteps echoing off the walls as we tried to put as much distance between ourselves and the guardsmen. The wind whipped through our hair, and I could feel the rush of adrenaline as we moved through the darkness. We reached the end of the catwalk, and I yanked open a nearby hatch, revealing a narrow drop into the palace's lower levels. Lyra's eyes widened as she took in the scene, before nodding and following me down into the darkness. We landed hard on the cold stone floor, the impact jarring my bones, but I was already on my feet, grabbing Lyra's arm and pulling her into a nearby doorway. "We're not safe yet, Lyra," I said, my voice low and urgent. "We need to keep moving and fast. The Collector's minions will be on our tail in no time." Lyra nodded, her eyes locked onto mine as we moved through the winding corridors. We were playing a game of cat and mouse, and I was determined to come out on top. But as we moved through the palace, I couldn't shake off the feeling that we were being herded towards a trap. The Collector's minions were closing in, and I knew that we were running out of time. I spotted a group of Imperial Guardsmen up ahead, their eyes locked onto us as we moved through the corridors. I cursed under my breath as I realized the truth: we were trapped, and the Collector's minions were closing in. "We're surrounded, Lyra," I said, my voice low and urgent. "We need to think fast, or we're going to be caught." Lyra's eyes narrowed as she took in the scene, before nodding and following me into a nearby alcove. "We can't outrun them, Kaelin," she said, her voice low and urgent. "We need to outsmart them, and fast." I nodded, my mind racing with options. We needed to find a way to shake off the guardsmen, and fast. I spotted a nearby air vent, and I yanked it open, revealing a narrow crawl space. "Get in, Lyra," I said, gesturing for her to follow me. She hesitated for a moment, before scrambling into the crawl space. I followed close behind, the sound of blaster fire echoing through the corridors as the guardsmen gave chase. We crawled through the narrow tunnels, our bodies pressed against the cold metal walls as we tried to lose the guardsmen. The air was thick with the smell of ozone and burning wiring, and I could feel the heat emanating from the energy shields as we moved through the palace's infrastructure. Finally, we reached a ventilation shaft, and I yanked it open, revealing a narrow catwalk that stretched out into the darkness. Lyra hesitated for a moment, before nodding and following me out onto the catwalk. We moved across the narrow walkway, our footsteps echoing off the walls as we tried to put as much distance between ourselves and the guardsmen. The wind whipped through our hair, and I could feel the rush of adrenaline as we moved through the darkness. But as we reached the end of the catwalk, I spotted a group of Imperial Guardsmen waiting for us, their blasters trained on us as we emerged from the shadows. "We're out of options, Lyra," I said, my voice low and urgent. "We need to think fast, or we're going to be caught." Lyra's eyes narrowed as she took in the scene, before nodding and following me into a nearby alleyway. "We can't outrun them, Kaelin," she said, her voice low and urgent. "We need to outsmart them, and fast." I nodded, my mind racing with options. We needed to find a way to shake off the guardsmen, and fast. I spotted a nearby maintenance access panel, and I yanked it open, revealing a narrow crawl space. "Get in, Lyra," I said, gesturing for her to follow me. She hesitated for a moment, before scrambling into the crawl space. I followed close behind, the sound of blaster fire echoing through the corridors as the guardsmen gave chase. We crawled through the narrow tunnels, our bodies pressed against the cold metal walls as we tried to lose the guardsmen. The air was thick with the smell of ozone and burning wiring, and I could feel I crawled through the narrow tunnel, the sound of blaster fire growing fainter with each passing moment. Lyra moved ahead of me, her agile body navigating the tight space with ease. I followed close behind, my heart pounding in my chest as I tried to catch my breath. As we emerged from the crawl space, I found myself in a bustling marketplace. The Undercity was alive with activity, the inhabitants of this forgotten world hurrying to and fro, their faces a blur of determination and desperation. I scanned the crowd, my eyes locking onto a group of rebels, their faces set in fierce determination. They approached me, their movements fluid and calculated. I recognized the leader, a woman with piercing green eyes and jet-black hair. She was a familiar face in the Undercity, a leader in the rebellion against the Collector's rule. "Kaelin," she said, her voice low and urgent, "we've been watching you. We know what you're trying to do." I nodded, my mind racing with possibilities. "I'm trying to stop the Collector," I said, my voice firm. "I won't let them use the AI's power to control the fantasy kingdom." The woman's eyes narrowed. "We're with you," she said. "We've been fighting against the Collector's rule for years. We've lost friends, family, everything, but we won't give up." Not yet. I felt a surge of hope. Maybe, just maybe, I wasn't alone in this fight. Maybe I had allies. People who were willing to stand up against the Collector's tyranny. "What's your name?" I asked, my eyes locked onto hers. "I'm Arachne," she said, a small smile playing on her lips. "And this is our team. We've been planning a rebellion for months, but we need someone with your skills to help us take down the Collector's forces." I nodded, my mind racing with possibilities. "I'm in," I said, my voice firm. "Let's do this." Arachne's smile grew wider, her eyes gleaming with excitement. "Welcome to the rebellion, Kaelin," she said. "We're going to change the course of history together." I felt a shiver run down my spine as I realized the implications. We were on the verge of something incredible, something that could potentially change the course of the Fantasy Kingdom's history. And I knew that I was ready to see this through, no matter the cost. As I stood there, surrounded by the rebels, I felt a sense of purpose that I'd never felt before. I was no longer just a smuggler, no longer just a thief. I was a warrior, a fighter for justice and freedom. The rebels dispersed, moving through the Undercity with a newfound sense of purpose. I followed close behind, my eyes locked onto Arachne's as we planned our next move. "We need to take down the Collector's forces," she said, her voice low and urgent. "We need to free the Undercity from their tyranny." I nodded, my mind racing with possibilities. "I have an idea," I said, a plan forming in my mind. "Let's use the Undercity's infrastructure against the Collector's forces. We can hack into the city's systems, disable their defenses, and create a diversion." Arachne's eyes lit up with excitement. "That's perfect," she said. "We can use the Undercity's own technology against them. Let's do it." I nodded, a sense of determination growing within me. We were going to take down the Collector's forces and free the Undercity from their tyranny, and I was ready to see this through, no matter the cost. As we moved through the Undercity, our plan unfolding before us, I felt a sense of hope that I'd never felt before. Maybe, just maybe, we could change the course of the Fantasy Kingdom's history. Maybe, just maybe, we could bring down the Collector's rule and create a new world, a world of freedom and justice. The Undercity's inhabitants looked at us with a mix of suspicion and hope. They knew that we were fighting against the Collector's rule, but they didn't know what we were capable of. They didn't know that we had a plan to take down the Collector's forces and free the Undercity from their tyranny. But I knew, and I was ready to see this through, no matter the cost. "Let's move out," I said, my voice firm. "We have a rebellion to lead." The rebels nodded, their faces set in fierce determination. We moved through the Undercity, our plan unfolding before us, as we prepared to take down the Collector's forces and free the Undercity from their tyranny. The fate of the Fantasy Kingdom hung in the balance, and I was ready to see this through, no matter the cost. I crouched behind a stack of crates, my eyes scanning the dimly lit tunnel for any sign of movement. The air was thick with the smell of smoke and sweat, and the sound of blaster fire echoed through the Undercity's corridors. The rebels were gathering, preparing to launch a full-scale assault on the Collector's forces. Lyra popped out from behind the crate, a look of fierce determination on her face. "Ready to move out?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. I nodded, checking my blaster for what felt like the 100th time. We had been preparing for this moment for weeks, and I was ready to see it through. "Let's do this," I said, gesturing for the rebels to follow. We moved through the tunnels, our footsteps echoing off the cold metal walls. The Undercity was a maze of narrow corridors and cramped chambers, but I knew it like the back of my hand. I had spent years navigating its hidden passages and secret chambers, always staying one step ahead of the Collector's agents. As we moved deeper into the Undercity, the fighting grew more intense. Blaster fire crackled through the corridors, and the sound of explosions echoed through the tunnels. The Collector's forces were well-trained and well-equipped, but we had the advantage of knowing the Undercity like the back of our hand. We reached the main chamber, a vast underground cavern filled with rows of computer servers and humming machinery. The Collector's forces were gathered there, a large group of heavily armed agents and soldiers. They were led by a towering figure in a black armor suit, their face hidden behind a mask of gleaming silver. "Ah, Kaelin," the figure said, their voice dripping with contempt. "I've been expecting you. You're just in time to witness the Collector's plan in action." I smiled, feeling a surge of adrenaline run through my veins. "We'll see about that," I said, gesturing for the rebels to move in. The battle was intense, with blaster fire and explosions erupting throughout the chamber. The rebels were well trained and well equipped, but the Collector's forces were better organized and better armed. I fought my way through the chaos, using my skills and the power of the Echo to turn the tide in favor of the rebels. The Echo was a powerful tool, one that allowed me to tap into the Undercity's hidden energies. I could feel its power coursing through my veins, guiding my movements and amplifying my abilities. With the Echo on my side, I was almost invincible. I fought my way through the Collector's forces, taking down agent after agent with precision and skill. The rebels were gaining ground, pushing the Collector's forces back with every step. I could feel the tide of the battle turning in our favor, and I knew that we were on the verge of a major victory. But the Collector's forces were not going to give up without a fight. They launched a desperate counterattack, a massive wave of blaster fire and explosions that threatened to overwhelm us. I fought my way through the chaos, using the Echo to guide my movements and amplify my abilities. The battle raged on, with neither side giving an inch, but I could feel the Collector's forces starting to falter, their morale beginning to break. We were gaining ground, and I knew that we were on the verge of a major victory. "Let's finish this," I said, gesturing for the rebels to move in. The rebels charged forward, a wave of blaster fire and explosions that threatened to overwhelm the Collector's forces. I fought my way through the chaos, using the Echo to guide my movements and amplify my abilities. We were on the verge of a major victory, and I knew that we were going to take down the Collector's forces once and for all. The Collector's forces were starting to break, their lines wavering under the pressure of our attack. I fought my way through the chaos, taking down agent after agent with precision and skill. The rebels were gaining ground, pushing the Collector's forces back with every step. And then in a flash of insight, I saw it. The Collector's plan, the reason behind their attack on the Undercity. It was a desperate bid to harness the power of the Echo, to use its energy to control the Fantasy Kingdom. I knew that I had to stop them, no matter what it took. I fought my way through the chaos, using the Echo to guide my movements and amplify my abilities. We were on the verge of a major victory, and I knew that we were going to take down the Collector's forces once and for all. The Collector's forces were on the brink of collapse, their lines wavering under the pressure of our attack. I fought my way through the chaos, taking down agent after agent with precision and skill. The rebels were gaining ground, pushing the Collector's forces back with every step. And then, in a final act of desperation, the Collector's forces launched a last-ditch attack, a massive wave of blaster fire and explosions that threatened to overwhelm us. I fought my way through the chaos, using the Echo to guide my movements and amplify my abilities. But it was too late. The Collector's forces were on the brink of collapse, their lines wavering under the pressure of our attack. I fought my way through the chaos, taking down agent after agent with precision and skill. The rebels were gaining ground, pushing the Collector's forces back with every step. And then, in a final act of victory, we took down the Collector's forces once and for all. The Undercity was ours, and the Fantasy Kingdom was on the verge of a major change. I stood victorious, my blaster still smoking from the last shot. The Undercity was quiet, the only sound the hum of machinery and the distant echo of blaster fire. I knew that we had won, that we had taken down the Collector's forces and freed the Undercity from their tyranny. But I also knew that this was just the beginning. The Fantasy Kingdom was on the verge of a major change, and I was ready to see it through, no matter the cost. I stepped out of the Undercity's main chamber, my eyes scanning the crowd of rebels gathered before me. We had done it. We had taken down the Collector's forces and brought an end to their tyranny over the Undercity. I couldn't help but feel a sense of pride and accomplishment as I gazed out at the sea of determined faces. "Friends," I said, my voice carrying across the chamber. Today, we mark a new beginning. Today, we take the first steps towards a brighter future for the Undercity and the Fantasy Kingdom as a whole. The crowd erupted into cheers and applause, and I couldn't help but smile as I raised my hands to quiet them. But our work is far from over, I continued. We have a new challenge ahead of us, one that requires all of our strength and determination. We must unlock the secrets of Eldrador, harness the power of the Echo, and use it to bring about a new era of peace and prosperity to our world. Lyra stepped forward, her eyes shining with excitement. "And I know we can do it," she said, her voice filled with conviction. "We've come so far already, and I have no doubt that we'll succeed." I nodded, feeling a surge of confidence and determination. We had done it before, and we could do it again. "Then let us begin," I said, my voice firm and resolute. "Let us unlock the secrets of Eldrador and harness the power of the Echo. Together, we can change the course of history and create a brighter future for our world." The crowd erupted into cheers once more, and I knew that we were ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. We had taken down the Collector's forces, and now it was time to unlock the secrets of Eldrador. I turned to Lyra, a plan already forming in my mind. "We need to get to the ancient ruins," I said, my eyes locked on hers. "We need to find the Echo and unlock its secrets." Lyra nodded, her face set in determination. "I know the way," she said. "Follow me." We made our way through the Undercity, avoiding pockets of resistance and making our way to the ancient ruins. The air was thick with an otherworldly energy, and I could feel the power of the Echo calling to me. As we approached the ruins, I could feel the weight of history bearing down on me. This was it. This was the moment we had been working towards for so long. We were on the verge of unlocking the secrets of Eldrador and harnessing the power of the Echo. We entered the ruins, our footsteps echoing off the ancient walls. The air was thick with an otherworldly energy, and I could feel the power of the Echo calling to me. "Be careful," I said, my voice low and serious. "We don't know what we're up against." Lyra nodded, her eyes scanning the ancient chamber. "I see it," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "The Echo is here. It's waiting for us." I took a deep breath, my heart pounding in my chest. This was it. This was the moment we had been working towards for so long. We were on the verge of unlocking the secrets of Eldrador and harnessing the power of the Echo. I reached out, my hand closing around the ancient artifact. The power of the Echo surged through me, and I felt my mind expand, my consciousness reaching out to the very fabric of reality. I was no longer just a smuggler. I was something more. I was a key player in the fate of the Fantasy Kingdom, and I was ready to see this through, no matter the cost. The Collector's downfall marked the beginning of a new era, one in which the power of the Echo would shape the course of history, and I was ready to be a part of it. "Let's do this," I said, my voice firm and resolute. Lyra nodded, her eyes locked on mine. "Together, we can change the course of history." And with that, we began our journey into the unknown, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead and unlock the secrets of Eldrador. I crouched beside Lyra, our eyes fixed on the holographic display projecting from the AI fragment's core. The data streaming in was a jumbled mess, but I knew that with the right key, we could unlock the secrets of Eldrador. "Lyra, can you try to interface with the AI?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. She nodded, her fingers flying across the console as she initiated the connection. The air around us seemed to vibrate with energy, the hum of the AI's core building in intensity. Suddenly, the holographic display flickered to life, and a low, melodious voice spoke out from the shadows. "Greetings, Kaelin," the AI said, its tone like a gentle breeze on a summer's day. "I have been waiting for you. You have freed me from my prison, and for that, I am eternally grateful." I exchanged a glance with Lyra, my mind racing with the implications. "What do you mean?" I asked, my voice cautious. "I am the last remnant of Eldrador's ancient the AI replied, its words dripping with an otherworldly wisdom. "I have watched as the Fantasy Kingdom rose from the ashes of the old world, and I have seen the choices that led to its current state. The AI's words sent a shiver down my spine. What choices? I asked, my curiosity piqued. The downfall of Eldrador, the AI said, its voice heavy with a deep sadness. The city's hubris and ambition led to its downfall. The fantasy kingdom's current state is a direct result of that event. The echo, the power that courses through the land, is a remnant of Eldrador's final moments. Lyra's eyes widened in horror. But what does that mean? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. It means that the fantasy kingdom is a shadow of its former self. The AI replied, its words dripping with a deep melancholy. The choices that led to Eldrador's downfall have been repeated, and the fantasy kingdom is now facing the same fate. I felt a cold dread creeping up my spine. What can we do? I asked, my voice firm. The AI's response was like a punch to the gut. You have a choice, Kaelin. You can use my power to change the course of history, to prevent the fantasy kingdom from following in Eldrador's footsteps. Or you can preserve the status quo, allowing the kingdom to continue its downward spiral. I looked at Lyra, and I knew that I had to make a decision. The fate of the fantasy kingdom hung in the balance, and I was the only one who could tip the scales. What are the risks? I asked, my voice steady. The risks are great, the AI replied, its words dripping with a deep solemnity. If you choose to change the course of history, you will be altering the fabric of reality itself. The consequences will be unpredictable, and the outcome may not be what you expect. I took a deep breath, weighing my options. I knew that I couldn't turn back now. The fantasy kingdom was on the verge of a major change, and I was ready to see it through, no matter the cost. Let's do this, I said, my voice firm and resolute. Lyra nodded, her eyes locked on mine. Together, we can change the course of history. And with that, we began our journey into the unknown, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead and unlock the secrets of Eldrador. As I stood on the rooftop, gazing out at the sprawling Undercity, the hum of machinery and the distant thrum of magic filled the air. The Collector's forces had been vanquished, and the people were finally free to rebuild and rediscover their heritage. Lyra stood beside me, her eyes shining with a mixture of excitement and trepidation. We did it, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. We actually did it. I nodded, a sense of pride and accomplishment washing over me. We had come a long way since our first meeting in the seedy taverns of the Undercity. Lyra and I had formed an unlikely alliance, bound together by our shared desire to bring down the Collector's regime and unlock the secrets of the fantasy kingdom. But now, with the Collector's downfall, a new era dawned on the horizon, and I knew that I had a crucial decision to make. Lyra, I said, turning to her with a serious expression, I need to talk to you about the echo. She raised an eyebrow, her eyes narrowing slightly. What about it? We've been using it to fuel our magic, to give us an edge in battle. But I think it's time we took a closer look at what it can really do. Lyra's expression turned thoughtful, and she nodded. I agree. The echo is a powerful tool, but we've only scratched the surface of its potential. I nodded, a plan forming in my mind. I think it's time we took a step back and reevaluated our approach. We need to think about how we can use the echo to benefit the fantasy kingdom as a whole, not just ourselves. Lyra's eyes widened, a spark of understanding igniting within them. You mean we need to think about the bigger picture? I nodded, a sense of determination settling within me. Exactly. We need to create a new horizon for the fantasy kingdom, one where the mistakes of the past are not repeated. The AI, embedded in my cybernetic eye, chimed in, its voice a soft whisper in my ear. Kaelin, I'm detecting a significant energy spike emanating from the echo. It's as if it's trying to communicate with us. I turned to Lyra, a sense of wonder on my face. Do you think it's trying to tell us something? Lyra's eyes locked on mine, a fierce determination burning within them. I think it's trying to show us the way forward. Together, we reached out with our minds, connecting with the echo on a deeper level. The energy spike grew in intensity, a vortex of power that threatened to consume us. But we stood firm, Our minds linked in a way that transcended the boundaries of human understanding. And in that moment, I knew that we were on the cusp of something momentous, something that would change the course of history forever. The fantasy kingdom was on the verge of a new era, one where the power of the echo would shape the course of history, and I was ready to be a part of it. As we stood there, bathed in the radiance of the echo, I felt a sense of awe wash over me. The possibilities were endless, the potential for growth and discovery limitless, and I knew that I was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, to unlock the secrets of Eldrador and create a new horizon for the fantasy kingdom. With a deep breath, I turned to Lyra, a sense of purpose burning within me. "Let's do this," I said, my voice firm and resolute. Lyra nodded, her eyes locked on mine. "Together, we can change the course of history." And with that, we stepped forward into the unknown, ready to face the challenges that lay ahead and unlock the secrets of the fantasy kingdom. The future was bright, and I was ready to shape it.